Excuses, excuses. Excuses are nothing more than ugly little monsters that hide in the closet of our mind. They jump out and try to scare away all your courage when you're trying to improve. Excuses like, I can't. It's too hard. It's too cold outside. It's too hot outside. I'll never make it. They don't like me. They control my life. Nobody likes me. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Oh, my back hurts. My underwear are too tight. Can the excuses. Take full responsibility for your life. Now, sometimes, again, those negative experiences can cause deep scars of pain in your heart. Those scars that we all feel at times can either hold you back from being all that you can be, or they can be a reminder to pull you forward, to achieve and to progress in your personality and the achievements in your life. Allow those scars to pull you forward. To illustrate this, I want to tell you a story called Broken Hearts. Once upon a time, not so very far away from here, there lived a young man named Levha Ari Ben Erik. Now, that name is a little bit too long to say throughout the story, so we're going to call him Ari for short. One hot summer afternoon, Ari and his friend Doug decided to go to the beach for the weekend. So they jumped in their car and headed across town. And as they were leaving town on Princess Garden Parkway, just over the crest of a hill, they came upon a woman, an old woman, standing right in the middle of the road, with her long gray hair flowing in the wind, in her nightgown, standing in the middle of the road. They swerved off the road, jumped out of their car, and helped the old woman across the street. They said, "Where are you going?" And with a squeaky voice and a long, bony finger, she pointed up the road and she said, "I'm going up to my daughter's house to visit. I hope she's home. She's usually not home." So Ari and Doug said, "Well, we'll help you up there." So they walked up the road a little ways and came to a little house off the side of the road and knocked on the door, and nobody came. And the old woman said, "She's never home. She never comes to see me anymore either. In fact, nobody comes to see me anymore. I'm so lonely." And Ari and Doug said, "Well, can we help you home?" And she said, "Oh, that would be wonderful, boys." So they walked up the road and up over the hill, and down about a quarter of a mile, they finally came to a little house that sat back in the trees, all overgrown with trees. The grass had grown up and gone to seed, and the clapboards were weathered, and most of the paint was gone. They walked her up to the porch, and she said, "Oh, well, thank you so much, boys. Won't you come in for just a moment, please, and visit with me?" And they said, "Well, okay, we'll come in for a few minutes, but we really can't stay long because we're headed to the beach for the weekend." So they stayed for a few minutes and talked, and she shared a little bit about her life and what a pleasant woman she was. And finally, Ari and Doug said, "Gee, we really have to get going. We don't want to be late for the beach for the weekend." And she said, "Well, thank you so much, boys, for helping me and staying with me. Could you come back and visit with me sometime? I'm so lonely." And they talked it over, and they said, "Well, sure, we'll come back next week." And she said, "Well, what day will you come?" And they said, "Well, we'll come Monday." And she said, "Well, what time will you come?" And they talked it over, and Doug and Ari finally said, "Well, we'll come at 7 o'clock on Monday evening." And she said, "Oh, that would be wonderful. I'll so look forward to your coming." Well, Ari and Doug went to the beach for the weekend. Monday night rolled around, and Doug and Ari were volunteer firefighters. And as they were sitting in the firehouse on Monday evening, around 6 o'clock, watching the TV and eating their supper, they heard that there was going to be a special on TV that evening. And they talked it over, and they thought, well, we'll go see the old woman tomorrow night. So they stayed and watched their TV show that evening. About 8:30, they heard a call come over the firehouse speaker for an ambulance call on Princess Garden Parkway. They looked at each other and thought, no, couldn't be. Now, they didn't know her name, let alone her address, or even if she had a phone. So the next night rolled around, and they got busy and couldn't go. And Wednesday, they couldn't go either. In fact, they didn't go. About a month later, Ari couldn't take it any longer. Ari got in his car, and he drove across town to Princess Garden Parkway, and he went up to the house and pulled the shades or the trees away from the window after he had knocked and nobody was home. And he could see inside through the cracks in the shades, but there was nobody there. So he thought he'd go up to the other house where he thought the daughter lived, and he went there and he knocked on the door and he introduced himself, and a middle-aged woman came out, and she said, "Gee, that's nice of you to stop by." And Ari said, "Well, I heard this ambulance call a few nights after we had helped your mother, is your mother okay? And the woman said, well, no, she died that night of a heart failure. And R.E. said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And he said goodbye, and he got in his car and drove about a mile up the road. R.E. pulled off the side of the road. He couldn't drive any further. His hands were shaking, and his heart was pounding, his chest was heaving. He began to feel very angry. He pounded on the steering wheel. He cursed and he swore. He cursed himself. Then he began to cry. He wept. He wept very hard for over half an hour. He knew the woman had died of a broken heart. He only hoped that someday he could see her in heaven and beg her forgiveness. R.E.'s heart was broken that day. There's a moral to this story called Broken Hearts. It goes like this. A broken heart can be scarred. A broken heart can become hard. A broken heart can kill. A broken heart can heal. Now, you may or may not believe that this story is true, but I'm here to tell you that the story is true. For you see, I am R.E., and this really happened to me. Every one of us has painful experiences that have come into our lives in one way or another. Those scars of pain that are on our hearts. You must allow that pain and that scar to pull you and propel you forward, to be all that you can be, and to achieve the things you want to achieve in your life. You are so rich, rich in potential, rich in resources, rich in freedom of choice. You have the potential to take the positive benefits from every experience in your life. You have the potential to take your business and sell and turn your business into a diamond, emerald, or Fortune 500 status. You have the resources of God and people and the material resources to become all that you can be and all that you were meant to be. You have the freedom of choice to determine your own destiny despite what society may predict or despite what your own negative thoughts may say. It is your choice. It is time to push past the pity party. How? By following 6 simple steps. First, you must aim at what you want to hit. Establish very clearly what your goals are, and then go after them. Second, you must reap all the benefits you can and make a long list of benefits from every experience in your life. Third, you must train your thinking. Take charge of your thinking. Determine who you are and what you want to be, and write out those positive assets about yourself. Read them out loud to yourself every day with enthusiasm. Fourth, make no excuses. Take 100% responsibility for your life. It's your life. You make it the way it is. Fifth, make peace with your neighbor. Make peace with yourself and make peace with God. And finally, you must take the crutches of self-pity and self-contempt, throw them into the sea of yesterday, pick yourself up, push past that pity party, and press on to be all that you can be.
Great motivational speech, Rick. We'll return after a brief public service announcement to talk with both Rick and Diane about their speeches.